Welcome to the Earning Freedom Program. I am Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com and prisonprofessor.com, always striving to provide some resources that will help people in prison understand a little bit more about the challenges that they have going forward and understanding what they can do to use their time inside of prisons and jails to begin preparing for success. And today I have the privilege of listening and learning from an individual who is a friend to anybody with a criminal record, and he's going to tell us why. Let me begin. His name is Jeff Mould. Did I enunciate your name correctly, Jeff?
Yes.
His name is Jeff Mould, and I want to thank Tara, a young woman who is a student at the University of Washington that was interning for me and just trying to connect to find interesting people that might help our incarcerated population understand and learn a little bit more. She reached out to Jeff, and Jeff, that's how you heard about me. Is that accurate?
That is, yes.
So that's the introduction. I don't know as much about Jeff as I would like, other than he is a friend to people in prison because he helps them prepare for employment. So Jeff, that's my very simple introduction. We're speaking to people who are incarcerated across the United States. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what got you interested in the people who are serving time in the United States?
Okay, well, I run a website called secondchancejobsforfelons.com, and I started this, I guess about a year ago. It's actually on its third iteration right now. But previous to that, I have a technology background. I worked for BAE Systems as a FAA contractor. I worked for Microsoft, a company that got acquired by AT&T back in the early 2000s, and really just had a technology background. Moved to Florida, and I'm originally from the DC, Baltimore area, and moved to Florida in 2001, and was living down there and ended up getting in trouble for credit card fraud in 2005. And did a year of probation, got lucky with that. But the one thing that I learned in there was having a very good support network and having family and friends.
What do you learned? A good thing in there is having a very good support network. Tell us a little bit about what you mean.
Being able to recover from being on probation and being in trouble. I can see, I learned the stigma and the depression, and, you go out and you try and find jobs, and the first thing that somebody sees or hears about you is, oh, you're a convicted felon, and the door just automatically closes in your face.
So this is the case, I know, for a lot of people in prison, but I think that what might be surprising, and I'd like you to elaborate on, surprising to some of my listeners, and I'd like you to elaborate on, is you have a crime that doesn't have the great stigma as many of the people who are incarcerated today. I mean, yours is it sounds like a rather innocuous offense. It's white collar, it's credit card fraud. The victim is a big bank or an institution rather than an individual. Tell us how that influenced. What is your academic background, by the way?
I attended college, went to University of Maryland, and graduated from University of Maryland. So I have a degree, bachelor's degree.
So you've got a university degree. You've got a great career. You're in technology. The kind of guy that we wouldn't look at
until recently.
Pardon?
I didn't get my degree until recently, till after.
Okay, but still, you come from a background there's a lot of employment, educated work, skilled labor at least, and yet you're saying that a credit card fraud conviction, not even imprisonment, resulted in challenges. I'd like to hear specifically about those challenges.
A lot of it had to do with the moral turpitude of it, and you hear that word thrown around, and it's it's kind of, well, what's it mean exactly? And it becomes a trust issue. Is a lot of jobs and a lot of companies, you're dealing with finances, or you might have access to finances, or people's personal information, and there's a level of trust there. And even if you don't, like I worked in a restaurant and I was criticized as a server in a restaurant. Can we
By
trust
whom? By the management or by an employee?
by management and owners? Can we
They
trust?
said they didn't want to have somebody with a felony background working as a server in a restaurant.
They would have rather had somebody with a felony murder charge than somebody with a credit card theft working as a server in a restaurant. Is pretty much what their exact words were to me.
Well, that's very helpful information, I think, because if we know the challenges that people are going to face, we know that we've got to prepare ourselves for them. And tell us what steps you took to overcome that challenge.
The biggest and the one that I always resort back to is just working hard and focus, and going in early, pulling the extra shifts, not complaining about getting, the bad shifts or, what you would think would be unfair treatment or, being singled out, just going in, doing the job, not complaining, and, essentially reproving yourself, not just to management, but to your fellow coworkers, that they know that they can trust you.
And were you transparent always with regard to your criminal background? Have you always been truthful and forthcoming, or did you allow them to discover it on their own?
That's a great question. At first I was very ashamed of it. And I hid it. I was not forthcoming with it. Obviously if I was asked on an application, excuse me, I would obviously answer the question truthfully, but at the same time, I was not out there preaching, so I kind of did
different from my approach, where I'm out there every day talking about, I did 26 years in prison and there's a way to get through it. But that approach has worked for me. I'm not suggesting it's the only approach, but it certainly has helped me. I've always been transparent about the bad decisions I made when I was 20 and the consequences of it. And I try and show other people, hey, that's worked for me. It's not the only game in town. I love hearing from other people who have a different approach. And your approach was to just kind of keep it under the radar.
And I did. And you know what? I found out, and now I don't. And what I found out was that by being transparent, it opened a lot more doors. And people came to respect you a little bit more, that you could open up about something like that, was my experience with it. And I guess it was about 2 years ago, I got accepted into a incubator program up in Philadelphia to work on a previous iteration of second chance jobs for felons. And when I was there dealing with investors and everything, they encouraged me, hey, be honest, be yourself, tell your story. Your story is worth more than anything that you could put together. And, that's kind of the approach that I've taken with that advice is, be transparent and don't be ashamed of it. Use it as a building block and as a strength.
The reality is all of us as human beings have some challenges in our past, and we're going to have challenges in the future. And to the extent that we're honest about it, we talk about what led us into that situation. We talk about what we learned from that situation. We talk about what we've done to make things right, what we're doing to make things right. We talk about why you can be assured that our background is actually a strength because it positions us to watch out for things that can derail our future. It motivates us to work harder because we have to work harder, as you said earlier. It motivates us to understand, there's a lot of complexities that come with living with a felony background, but to the extent we approach the challenges head on, we can steer our way through those challenges and work toward a better life. And I'm glad to hear that's what you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about this organization. Is it a nonprofit or is it a for-profit entity?
Well, it is a non-profitable for-profit entity. It is a for-profit entity.
But you said you had some venture capital behind you. Is that investors or is that grant money?
No, originally what happened was about 2 years ago, I got accepted into a program out of Philadelphia with a previous, version 1 of the product. And at the time, so it was wasn't venture capital as much as it was a grant from the city of Philadelphia and Bloomberg Industries and a group called Good Company Ventures ran an incubator up there.
And what kind of money were they offering?
Yes. Well, I'm not sure how he was tied into it, but it was Bloomberg Initiatives, City of Philadelphia, and Good Company Ventures.
How much money were they offering for this venture?
$10,000.
$10,000, and the objective was to help more formerly incarcerated people transition to the job market. Is that right?
Well, it was an incubator program to, there was 10 other companies involved in the incubator. And so the plan that I approached the incubator with was a company to help returning citizens find employment opportunities. And the version 1.0 iteration was a monster.com for returning citizens. So the intent was to go out and find companies and place their job ads onto a site and have returning citizens be able to find employment opportunities. And through the course of the incubator program, the business model kept getting tweaked and tweaked and tweaked to where it is today as secondchancejobsforfelons.com.
Did you question on that monetization plan? Were you charging a fee for companies to advertise?
Yes, that was going to be the monetization plan for it.
So the company would pay you $30 or something like that to post an ad, and the felons would have an opportunity to review those ads for free.
Correct.
And how many companies were you able to sign up?
One
company.
Yep.
Which is great piece of advice, Jeff, and I'm glad that you shared that, because that should wake some people up and let them know how difficult and challenging it is to bust through the barriers and to create employment. Who was that company, and how many positions were they opening?
I'm not going to discuss the name of the company, but the positions was about 30 positions. And the problem that we ran into was it would have been a lot easier if we'd have sold it as confidential companies. But we wanted to make the companies public and their names public. And a lot of them did not want to have their company name associated with posting a job on this site.
That is great information, because a formerly incarcerated person or an individual who is in prison before he becomes a returning citizen, when he's still just a citizen who's locked in the cages of America, he has to understand transitioning into society is going to be an enormously heavy lift. It's going to be a big challenge. Even people like Jeff, who are really striving to build the bridges between the prison released population from prison and the job market, face a real hurdle. And I really applaud you for fighting that fight, because I know a lot of people do need employment. What type of advice might you give to people who are in prison today but want to position themselves to overcome these challenges they're going to face?
Capitalize on as much education opportunities, whether that's formal educational in terms of books or in terms of getting up and working, in the dining hall, or working, in the shop, or, spending the time wisely, besides just sitting there and wishing that somebody's going to give you something, because that's not going to happen. You're going to have to go out and you're going to have to earn it. And you are going to have to work extra hard for it. But it's not impossible by any means. And I see a lot of great people every day that have been able to overcome the challenges simply by working hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what are you doing now? You're obviously not able to support yourself with this notable venture that you're on. What other type of work are you doing to earn a living?
That's it. This is it.
So how are you? Have you been able to raise more capital?
No, it's self-sufficient. It's ad-based, and it pulls in a bunch of resources. It's an entire resource site. So it's one thing that I found in my own personal experience was that there's not one answer. You end up spending hours on hours on hours of searching for help with post-conviction relief. Can I get my record sealed? Can I get an expungement? Can I get a pardon? How do I get a pardon? What programs are available in my area? What training opportunities and what jobs are available in my area. So I've been able to build a job search engine that is able to go out and look at current job openings and determine, based on a set of criteria, are those jobs felon friendly? Or can I get this job with a misdemeanor? Can I get it with a felony? And it also overlays some of the consequences, such as issues with occupational licensing. So if somebody has a felony conviction, can they get a barber license in a state? Or do they have to wait a period? How long do you have to wait to get a CDL? Am I going to qualify for that? So it looks at the length of time since the conviction, and the type of conviction to base the types of jobs that it's able to return.
But you said that that's self-sufficient, so you must have had some other transition from that $10,000 incubation fund to where you are now. Tell us about that.
I worked in a restaurant for a long time, for about 6 years, just saving every penny that I can possibly save.
And then you built this business with those savings and with your investment capital that you received from this incubation fund, right?
Correct. Yep.
So how is the business sustaining you right now? What is the monetization plan on that business?
Yeah, it's entirely ad-based and driven off of the job clicks and affiliates. As far as like we have some of your books listed on the site. I
want to help you. I think that this is really an important service that you offer. Do you do it on a national basis or do you do it on a local basis?
It's available nationwide. So any of the 50 states, we do have job opportunities in all 50 states listed on the site. We have every day we scan about, I say we, it's currently just I. We scan about just over 1 million jobs every day, and sorting those jobs out. And then it's all just waking up every morning. Sorry?
How many visitors do you receive to that site? How many visitors hit that site a day?
Right now, about 1,500 to 2,000.
So you're getting close to 50, 60,000 hits a month, unique visitors.
Correct.
That's great information for our population to know. You can see how many individuals formerly incarcerated are just looking for jobs, and Jeff is providing an enormous service, helping to build those bridges between the returning citizens, formerly incarcerated, just people who face the enormous stigma that follows a criminal conviction. And if a well-educated man like Jeff with a white-collar criminal background has challenges, imagine how difficult it can be for somebody with a more lengthy criminal record. What have you learned, Jeff, with regard to criminal convictions? What types of criminal convictions might an individual want to understand? Hey, employers are particularly challenged with that type of conviction. Do you find any differences?
I do. It's kind of a twofold question, Michael. The first side is, it's always tougher with somebody that has a physical charge, so murder, assault. It's always
violent offense.
Excuse me?
A violent offense.
Correct. It's always tougher for them to get the door open, but once the door's open, it's easier for them compared to somebody that has a nonviolent trust offense, such as a theft, or identity theft, just an unarmed robbery, anything like that. The white collar type crimes, you start raising a lot of trust issues there, and employers are very skeptical of that. So they not only have the hard time opening the door, but then they have the hard time explaining how the employer can trust them. where typically a violent offender, it's limited to one offense, where the nonviolent, there's usually a lot more to it.
There's about more than 50% of our nation's prison population is serving time for a drug-related offense. I'd be curious to hear what you've learned about drug offenders transitioning into the job market, and also sex offenders. There's a growing segment of our population that have been convicted of crimes like related to sexual offenses. What challenges are those people facing getting into the job market?
With the drug offenses, I think it's the trend that I've seen is, I don't want to say it's gotten easier, but it's gotten a little bit more acceptable on the drug offenses. Especially when you're dealing with marijuana, and it's not, I have not seen the toughness there. It still is, but an employer tends to, somebody coming out with a year or two after a drug offense is having an easier time than somebody coming out with a year or two after a robbery or, a homicide offense. On the sex offender, that brings up a lot of new challenges, sex offense, and the other one that brings up is arson. I haven't figured out the arson issue, but the sex offense does open up a whole slew of problems, from housing to transportation to, the type of job. And there's definitely some reform that could be done on the sex offense list side of things. I'm not saying eliminate it completely, but there's some reform that could be done there, to make it easier.
Well, my role is to try and let people know, or at least the service that I try to provide for people who are in prison, is to help them understand that there's going to be obstacles. And if there's obstacles, there's a way through them. Now, I have my own theory on what does it take to get through those obstacles. I teach that through my Earning Freedom Mastermind course and my Success After Prison course, trying to show people that it's the decisions that they make while they're incarcerated can really ease the journey through prison and begin positioning an individual to overcome these challenges that you have found in the marketplace from the 50 or 60,000 people every month that are looking for guidance from your site. And repeat your site again, Jeff.
secondchancejobsforfelons.com.
That's a very long URL, but I'm going to try and remember. secondchancejobsforfelons.com. I hope I got that right, but I can assure you
that's it.
I will be providing a link to it on the back end of the show notes that go along with this webcast and podcast that I'll feature on michaelsantos.com. But may I ask, do you have a shorter URL as well, or is that the only URL you're using right now?
That's the only one that I have right now on it.
How is it working with regard to the Google rankings? Are people able to find it easily?
We are in the top 20 to top 30. It's been live since...
Under what search terms?
Jobs for felons.
Okay. And where is your traffic coming from?
Mean state-wise, location-wise, or?
Who's delivering you that traffic? How are people finding your website?
A lot through Google and a lot through referrals. I'd say probably...
Any pay-per-click advertising or any type of advertising?
Nope. It's just been strictly outreach through reaching out to other programs. I definitely don't think that this is a one-man job by any means. It takes a bunch of different programs working together to help each other and to help their members. So, while you might be great at this, I can help you with that. And that's really what it's come down to.
Do you sell anything on your site?
Nope, not directly, no.
So everybody who wants to get a resource, you are like a library for returning citizens who are trying to overcome the challenges that confront us all. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Well, that is an awesome service, really a great tool. I will be linking to it on this video podcast. It's going to be available on my website And I'll also like to build a link, some type of a link to drive more people as a resource to your work, because I really think it's valuable, and I'm very grateful to you for providing that as somebody who spent a considerable amount of time in federal prison. I have an affinity for people who are coming back to society, and I want to help steer them to the best of my ability. So I will absolutely be directing them to your website, which is
secondchancejobsforfelons.com.
secondchancejobsforfelons.com. Really want to encourage our listeners to take a look at that while they're inside. If people want to reach out to you, do you have a system for that,
Yep.
Jeff? Or if you do, could you let us know?
There's phone support available. There is live chat available on the website, so they can simply click the live chat button. Sometimes if I see you browsing, I'll automatically just pop in and see if there's any way that we can help out. There is a site redesign getting ready to come out within the next day. And then we're also getting ready to launch the resume builder that's specifically built for returning citizens.
Do you have room on there to host a podcast? Could I give you an RSS feed so that your people could be listening to other formerly incarcerated people who emerged successfully?
Absolutely. In fact, we have every month I try and do, I call it a Stories of Hope series, and it's formerly incarcerated people. We're in our third month right now with 3 different stories that we've launched out there as well. They're just they're written. They're not a podcast, but definitely would love to have.
Let's do it. Let's tie up Earning Freedom podcast with your group, and that way, if people want to listen to stories of formerly incarcerated people who emerged successfully, we'll just give them a little bit more content that they could grab on your site. We'll talk about that offline. I'm gonna close out this because we're at about a 30-minute episode length here. Do you have any final words that you'd like to share with our audience, who many of whom are still in prison?
No, just keep up the hard work and be ready to work hard. Not only in there, but when you get out, there are going to be obstacles, like Michael said, but they're easy to overcome if you put your mind and your body to it. And you can do anything. So don't give up hope.
I'll never give up hope. I'll always be striving to build more hope based on the success that you are providing. And I hope that we're going to instill this message to people who are living inside, helping them recognize there's a lot of challenges when they cross the other side of the wall and return back to society. But the decision is yours right now. You can begin sowing seeds for a better future. And when you want to find resources of other people who have done so, you want to turn to this website, which is called
secondchancejobsforfelons.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I am Michael with michaelsantos.com. We'll have show notes with links to secondchancejobsforfelons.com. Thank you.